In this video, we're going to learn how to perform rotations using some patty paper, and then talk about a little bit how you can think about doing rotations without having to use that helping tool. So here, I've got FPKN, my four-sided shape, my quadrilateral. I want to rotate it 180 degrees. If it doesn't tell me which direction I'm rotating, I always default to counterclockwise, like this. Or if it's positive, that means it's a counterclockwise rotation. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is, it kind of is a little hard to see in the video. Here's the origin, 0, 0. And I'm going to just take note of the coordinates that I have here. F is at the point 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4, 2. F is at negative 4, 2. N is at negative 1, negative 2. I'll go in order. F, P, K, N is what I said. So P is at 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. K is at 3, 0. And N is at negative 1, negative 2. All right. So the way we're going to use patty paper is, you'll put the piece of paper over. This happens to not actually be patty paper, but because I've got a light underneath, you can see through it. You're going to put it over, and you're going to trace your shape. I'm also going to trace kind of where the center is. So I'll put that dot down. Here's where N was. Here's where F was. P and K. And then I'm also going to trace the lines, though that doesn't really matter, but it helps us see it a little bit easier. And then over here. All right. So now, this said I wanted to do a rotation of 180 degrees. So if I look at my paper, I've got it as kind of a square. It's 4 sides. Your patty paper will be too. And I'm just going to, if it's a rotation and doesn't tell you where I'm centering the rotation, you always center it around the origin, the point 0, 0. So I'm going to center it around the origin, and I'm going to just rotate. Here, one corner is going to be a 90-degree rotation, and then I'm going to do another corner. This is 180 degrees. Once I've got that though, so I see where it belongs, except it doesn't, I can't write on the paper yet. So what I'm gonna need to do now is take note of where all my points ended up. So starting with F, it's upside down, but F is over here. I'll now say F prime should be at these coordinates, and it's the coordinates 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So 4, negative 2. Okay. Let's see. P was next. P now is at, so P prime is at negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4, negative 1, negative 4. What did I say? F, P, K. K is upside down, but wow, my upside down K's look kind of weird. This is the point negative 3, 0. K prime is at negative 3, 0. And then N is at 1, 1, 2, 2. N prime is at 1, 2. Now that I have my coordinates written down here, I can take the patty paper away and just start plotting those new points. F should be at the coordinates 4, negative 2, F prime I should say. So 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 2. Here's F prime. P prime should be at the points negative 1, 1, 2, 3, negative 4. Here is P prime. K prime is at 1, 2, 3, negative 3, 0. And N prime is at 1, 2. And now I'll just connect all those points. And it should look like this shape spun around 180 degrees. Looks kind of weird, but if you see, here's my patty paper, and I'll spin it again around once halfway around a circle. So here is 90 more degrees, and another 90 should bring me to 180, and it fits right on top of it. So that's exactly it. We did a perfect 180 degree rotation here, as long as you don't move your center off to the side. All right, let's do one more example of this. Also notice I started at -4, 2, and then 4, -2. Here's the thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit before we go on to another example. And I'm gonna actually make my X and Y axis a little bit more visible for this little discussion here. Okay. If you look at your X and Y axis, there's 4 places you can be in. Over here, we call this the first quadrant. Over here, we call this the second. Over here is number 3. And over here is number 4. We use Roman numerals for it because they're nice and fancy. If you notice, every single set of coordinates in my first quadrant, these are always for my X and Y. It's always positive, positive. If I rotate it over here, so let's take a look at P. P to start was 1, 4, positive, positive. If I rotate it 90 degrees, and it comes over here, so let's rotate this 90 degrees, notice now P right over here is at -4, 1. So before it was up along close to the y-axis, a 90-degree rotation brings it close to the x-axis, and now one of the things are negative. In my second quadrant, I've got for x and y, this time I have my x coordinates in this quadrant are negative, and my y coordinate is still positive. And notice when I move that P, so it was plus plus, I turned it to that quadrant. The x and y, it looks like those coordinates flopped. It was 1, 4 before, and now it's -4, 1, and the x is at negative now. I don't want to confuse too much, but if you got that, that's good. If not, just follow along for another moment or so. In quadrant 3 over here, okay, there we go. In quadrant 3 over here, my x and y coordinates, every x past this part of the y is going to be negative, and everything below the x-axis there is also going to be negative. So I've got positive, positive, negative, positive, negative in the x, positive in the y, negative for both x and y, and the last one, it's going to be positive in the x, negative in the y. Positive in the x, and negative in the y. If you can visualize how these points are going to move, P is over here and it's plus plus, and after 90 degrees, you can imagine it was at 1, 4. 90 degrees is going to have it go around 1/4 of the circle. It should end up over here at -4, 1. If I go 90 more degrees, I was next to the x-axis. Now I'm going to come 90 degrees around here, end up over here. Now it's -1, -4, both negative. All right, let's do one more example. I'll leave this for a moment as I'm cutting another piece of patty paper out. And we'll do one more example using the patty paper to help us. Okay, let's come over here. This time we've got our shape JVTR, and I want to do a rotation of -90 degrees. -90, or when you're doing a rotation of negative anything, that means we're going to be going clockwise. Regular like by default, it's counterclockwise. So positive is default, it goes counterclockwise. If it's negative though, I want to go the opposite of default, which is going to be clockwise. All right, I'm going to start out here actually by doing the XY axis. I think that makes it a little easier to understand what's going on in this video. Okay, so I'm going to do negative 90 degrees. That means, and don't forget if I've got a circle, all the way around is 360. All the way around is 360. And every quarter of the circle, because I make 90-degree angles there, over here is 90. Over here, this next quarter is 90 more. 90 and 90 makes me 180. Over here is 90 more. 180 plus 90 gets me 270. So every one of these quarter of a circle as you go is 90 degrees. This time though, I'm going to be going quarters at a time negative. So I'll go from here to there to get to the negative 90. Okay, thinking about J, so this is in the quadrant where it is plus in the X and minus in the Y. If I rotate 90 degrees this way, I'm going to go a quarter around the circle. It looks like I'll probably end up over here, and it's going to be negative, negative. Let's check to see if that works out with the patty paper. So I'll put my center over here. I'll do J. And actually, let's do it one point at a time. So J, I'm going to rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, or sorry, clockwise, 90 degrees positive. And I move the paper a little bit. I end up right over there. So from here, I'm going to turn 90 degrees, and I end up right there, exactly where I thought I was going to be. So I can put down over here my new point. This is J prime. I probably should have put it over there, and we'll see why in a minute. R, it's the same idea. I'm R over here. I'm going 90 degrees, so I'm going to end up in this quadrant. I was at 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, negative 3. So those are going to switch when I go 90 degrees. It's going to be, I think, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I bet this is where my new R prime is going to be. I'll put a little dot there, and let's see if we get it right. So I'll put my patty paper back over, line it up, check with the R, and I'll try spinning it without moving the dot this time. All right, go 90 degrees. The J should go right on top, and the R, did I move the paper again? Yeah, the R goes pretty much where I expected it to be. It's not a perfect science with the patty paper, which is why it's good to get an intuition of where the points should be. But yeah, it looks like the R is going right where I thought it was going to be. So I'll confirm. Here's my new point, R prime. Let's keep going with this. T is all the way over here at 5, negative 3. After 90-degree rotation, it's going to probably be at negative 3, negative 5. I'm betting the T is going to be right over here next to my R prime, which makes sense because T and R are right next to each other in my original. Dun, dun, dun. Center it. Let's try and center it better this time. Yeah, look at that. My R was not perfectly on top of it. I'm going to do my T and my V at the same time now, just to get this video finishing. All right, I'll rotate it to 90 degrees. T goes exactly where I expected. V looks like it's at the point 0, negative 2. So V is going to be at the point 0, negative 2. And T was right where we expected it to be. Here's V prime. See, here's why my letters were a little bit off. But it's okay. You can still see the shape. All right. And so that's my 90-degree clockwise rotation, my negative 90-degree rotation. And I had plus minus before, and in this quadrant, everything should be minus minus. So maybe if you want to think of a general rule, when I rotate 90 degrees, I flip my X and Y, and then depending on which quadrant you end up in, it's either going to be plus plus, minus plus, minus minus, or plus minus. Do not memorize these four things. Just figure out, if you don't remember, plot a point here and say, oh, n is at 1, 2. That's plus plus. F is at -4, 2. Hey, that's minus plus. Don't memorize these things. Just plot some things and figure it out for yourself when you are doing it. All right, that's enough time for this video. Hopefully that helped with some rotations. And good luck rotating shapes and figures.